So I am going to start the recording now, just so that y'all know that we're recording. So hi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kim Heffernan. I'm the Professional Development Coordinator in the College of Business. We are really pleased that so many of you have taken time out of your day to log on. This is a time our professional development team is still a bit hard at work, closing out the spring semester. And into the summer, when our programming would typically slow and we kind of start looking forward to fall and planning, we realized that there's a unique situation going on right now. And we thought, let's just address the elephant in the room. Let's offer some programming for students and recent alums who presumably will be more available and also, may need some professional development or maybe want that opportunity to make some connections, for students who may have lost internships or recent alums who are having trouble finding a job now. And so, instead of just kind of going on status quo, we decided to start this CBA Professional Development Summer Speaker Series. So this is going to be every Wednesday in June and July throughout this summer at 1 p.m. So we hope for those of you who are joining us today can join us at a future session. And throughout this time, we're just going to be, we have our CBA advisory board members, corporate partners, alums who will be joining us to offer their advice and perspective on professional development topics, especially in the current environment. So that's kind of an overview of kind of what this is, and we're just really pleased to start off this session today, with this topic, because it's kind of going to be a really great kind of umbrella to lead into the other topics. So before we get into that, I just want to address a couple of kind of housekeeping items in terms of WebEx. I think everyone's probably pretty familiar with this platform now, but if you wouldn't mind keeping yourself on mute, if you're not, just throughout the session, that'll just help with the background noise and some of the skipping sometimes. We would love to see you, so if you turn on your video, that'd be great. I encourage you to use the chat function throughout the session. I'm going to stop sharing this screen in just a second, and I'll be able to kind of monitor that chat screen. We would love to hear your questions throughout. We want this to be, an interactive session. So, and then I think most people probably know this, but you can change the view. So kind of in the top right-hand side of your screen, there are different options for changing your view. So you can use the one that you prefer. So.
Kim, I would take this moment and have everyone go ahead and just start in mute mode, because people don't realize that their external noise that they're creating will disrupt some of the things you're doing, and then we can help them in how to walk in and out of mute mode.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yep. So you could keep yourself on mute. That'd be great. In fact, I'll mute myself when I'm not talking here.
You can control everyone and start everyone in mute right now, since you're the controller of all of
it. It's interesting. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here because didn't look like I could. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Great. Okay. I think we're good now. So a couple more here. Okay. All right, Vinnie, I think I unmuted you.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so we're really pleased to start this session, start this series with, how COVID-19 has affected the job search for current. We are really pleased to have Vinnie Fisher on board with us for this session. It's going to be a really great one to start things off. We're going to kind of have a conversation back and forth here, and then also my colleague Jacob Farrar, who some of you may know, he's the director for the Taylor Institute for Direct Marketing. He knows Vinnie very well, and so the three of us are kind of going to have a conversation here. So you'll see Jacob jump in here as well, and then again, I encourage you to use the chat to enter your questions. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Jacob for just a brief introduction of Vinnie.
Hey, thanks, Kim. Excited to be here today on this webinar. This is something we've actually been talking about, this particular topic, way back in March. It seems so long ago. As the corporate partner board for the Taylor Institute was talking about what that group could do for students, and this topic came up. And it's great that we've been able to kind of fast forward a couple months and here it is, and it be part of this summer series of webinars to help out students. So we're excited to be able to kind of bring this from a conversation topic to now it's a full-on a webinar today that we're having. So excited about that. I'm pleased to be able to introduce Vinnie Fisher. You've already heard his voice, probably seen him pop up on the screen. Vinnie, I've known Vinnie for a few years now. Vinnie and his company, Fully Accountable, are corporate partners of the Taylor Institute. And a really good way to describe Vinnie is a serial entrepreneur. He just can't stop starting businesses. And I think it's because he knows what it does to start a business. So for us that have never done it, we think it's just this huge task. I'm not downplaying that it's not a huge task, but he has done it so many times that it's something that he can do and be successful at. He is a lawyer by trade. However, he's just a marketer. That's what I love about him. He's a lawyer by, it's on paper on a wall, but he is a pure marketer. He knows how to market his businesses very successfully. And the one that we're talking about today is his business, Fully Accountable, which is an accounting firm. But the cool thing about this accounting firm is that most of their customers are outside of the region. So they're able to market their services through digital marketing to companies all over the country. And they primarily focus on e-commerce and marketing companies as their clients. And so Vinnie has been hiring students for a number of years now. That's why he is a partner of the Taylor Institute, and has for both full-time and internship positions. And not just marketing, but also they, as an accounting firm, they do a lot with accounting students. So we are excited to have Vinnie talk about that because, again, when we look at companies that are hiring our students, Fully Accountable is one of those. And so he's got a great experience in what it takes to get a job, and so we're excited to have Vinnie here today. So with that, I will introduce Mr. Vinnie Fisher, great friend, super smart guy, and we're excited to have him here today. So take it away, Vinnie.
I went along with everything there, Jacob, until the end. I thought you would have went with highly attractive over smart, but I'll take it. It's okay. I mean, it's okay.
That goes without saying. I didn't need to say the obvious. So.
Gotcha. Well, hey, I'm excited to be here with everybody. When we started talking about this subject in March about, looking at the current landscape, I dove right in and wanted to help. 3 things I want to give everybody. I am extremely passionate about the workplace. You're going to hear me get amplified, not because I'm trying to animate to you, is I just can't help myself. I believe in young thought, which means I don't care what age you might identify with. There's this energy that goes along with youthful thinking. And so you're going to get that from me all the time. And 3, I spend a lot of my time mentoring youth. I love that perspective when it comes to opportunities. And so one of my early on mentors would have said to me, when there's disruption, you have one of 2 choices. You could choose to look at that as what's happening to you, or you could choose to say, what am I going to do with what happened? And I just embrace that second one. Maybe it's the way my personality is designed, but I look at external disruptions, awful ones, as an opportunity to do something with it, as opposed to what's going to happen to me now. And so I'm always going to come at it from that perspective. And so this is a recorded session. We have some kind of journey we want to take you through, but please, if you have a question, my first thing would say is throw that into the chat so that Kim can have those. And if it's super important and we want to hit the pause button, raise your hand. We can stop. We can talk about that. Kim can bring that question into the flow of the conversation. But please, I encourage you to engage in that. And then with time permitting, as we get near the end, we want to open it up and allow for collaboration. And then finally, my last thing is I'm a big believer in putting your best foot forward. So in my company, I'll talk about that a little bit. I won't let my 75 people show up to a meeting without having an opportunity to look at each other in a video setting. So take advantage of those things. I get it. I've been a student. You want that interaction. If we have barriers in the way, you want to do everything you can from your perspective to remove those barriers. So you're not going to hear me be parental and say, turn your video on, but you want that engagement. You want there to be some reason why Vinnie remembers you. And if you don't want that, then I want to help you change your mindset on that. So today, what we did was we said, Kim, Jacob, and myself, we sat down and said, what would be from a perspective of helping our students? And so I put together a little kind of activity thing. I'll just grab it here, Kim, if you'd like, and go from.
Sure.
that point.
I'll just add, while you're pulling that up, I just think you just made such a great point. You know, some of the things that we may be missing in our face-to-face is the networking piece of it. And I think, you know, as much as, you know, we're bringing the speaker series to students, you know, for the topics, it's as much for the networking piece. We say career ready and connected. It's career ready and connected. So that connected piece is really important. And we're trying, as part of this, not only to bring you content, but also to connect you with some of the professionals in our network. And so, yeah, this, you know.
Add on that, Kim, that's a great point. I taught one of the marketing last couple semesters, but I think it was two, not this semester virtually, but the semester before, I taught a class in Jacob's program. And I actually, we were just discussing how to use marketing and like what's the right approach to the client journey and how are they the hero. And in that class, I had some great interaction. Well, there were two students that were on it, and they made a real impression with me. And they are at the top of our list right now of people we're talking to right now, because they're like graduating and all this stuff. And it's because of that, right? That can happen virtually too. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I'm a peer. Right? Even though I'm a lot older and more bald, I'm a peer, and I would say to you that my perspective would be: remember that it goes both ways. Networking isn't you just hoping that someone hires you. Networking is making an impression that I leave and think, man, I got to have that person on my team. The reason why that has gone away here as of recent, and we're going to get into that, is that some of the older ways in an underemployment situation tends to get diluted. So let's walk through where we are. I think it's important for you to know who I am in order for you to really want to listen to the old guy. And so I'm married. I got 4 kids. I got one of them at the University of Akron. She just finished her first year, about to have her second year. I have a home of teenagers, as you can see, right? I have a 19, 17, 15, and 13-year-old. But my big one for this year is this is my 25th wedding anniversary year. So Deb and I, she has endured, you know, there's a saying that, you know, your days are short and and then they can also then be long, and then your years are real short, right? And so that happens in anything. But one of the themes I'm going to talk to you today is about perspective, endurance, and grit. And I'm super proud to be able to show my greatest accomplishment is that Deb and I have practiced perseverance, perspective, endurance, and grit. And a testimony to that is our marriage. And so excited about that. I am a highly educated person. I continue education. I've got all kinds of fancy little symbols behind my name and all that. I am not somebody who grew up in kind of the school of hard work without actually degrees. I believe wholeheartedly in some of the benefits of formalized education. So I want to make sure you understand, I'm a brethren. I'm sitting here as somebody who has advanced degrees, is licensed in multiple states as an attorney, has a continued ongoing dedication to formalized training for myself, for my team, and I eat my own dog food by coming back and teaching at the school. I'm a corporate partner not by accident. I believe in continued education. So what does that mean? I think that we have to always be learning. The thing is, though, I'm an always be doing guy. So you got to be very careful that you become a professional learner without becoming a professional doer. Now, I wear both hats, which means I own a bunch of things. I'm a very active guy. And so I say that because I have a true perspective on the job market, its fluctuations. I came out of my law school inside of the dot-com bubble of 2000. I literally got my job at a law firm and had 3 job changes before I hit the firm's offices. I wasn't sure if I had a job. I got 2 raises, got a salary reduction before I even hit the offices. So I know exactly what it's like to be actually working for a job right at the moment of a fluctuation. I have that perspective, and I'm not old enough to have forgotten the anxiety that goes along with that. Two, I have also lived through these fluctuations as an employer. I have more than 150 people on our teams. I'm responsible, thankfully, and have the burden and privilege to have a lot of payroll and people and responsibilities. And so I recognize also what it looks like for you to be interacting with someone like me looking to join someone's team. So I can sit here and have both perspectives with you, and maybe even a third one in there with some empathy, being able to recognize both. I am actively right now the CEO, and I founded a company called Fully Accountable. As Jacob said, provides outsourced fractional controller and CFO work to e-commerce companies. Interestingly, it's throughout North America, not just the United States. And the second point of differentiation from Jacob's comment, actually, it's not a bragging point, it's just true. We don't have currently any Northeast Ohio clients. We could be better local marketers, but we are far better actual digital and online marketers than we might be in local marketing. And I could use to learn a lesson or two from probably people on this call as well as others to get better at that. And so because of our good sized teams and what we do across, I'm an investor. I grow multiple businesses. I buy them. I create an ecosystem. That's why we have the spread we do of employment. And so it's from that perspective that I want to talk to you today about where we're going. Where we're going is to help you think about kind of what job opportunities are going on today. What's really happening? And one of the things I really want to impress upon you is what I started to say a few minutes ago is we have, coming into March, regardless of which perspective you want to look at it, the Bureau of Labor Statistics are really undeniable. We would have had some of the lowest unemployment statistics that the last time you would have seen some of these numbers really would have been when your grandparents would have been in the job place, in the marketplace. And so we personally would not have experienced this run of underemployment. And why am I telling you that? I think it's important to know that because I think the attitude of job opportunities change based on availability of workforce. And so the more abundant opportunities are, which means employers are kind of looking for you and you have multiple options, is a different marketplace than when you are looking for an employer and they have multiple options. With more unemployment, the market shifts to an employer having opportunities. With less unemployment, the actual job worker has more options. That switched. That straight up switched for us. You did nothing wrong. You've been going to school or you're just graduated, and all you did was do what you were supposed to do in the process. And a line got drawn in the sand. The reality is, how do you deal with that? I'm a very realistic but positive person. And so depending on which line of the sand you're on, whether your internship or your first job got smoked or kept in place, the realities are true. And so I would say if you're here and you're thinking about kind of a job opportunity, I want to help you think about some old ways inside of this new journey, because I subscribe to a theory that there's nothing new under the sun. We just recycle based on swings inside of our societal swing, what's happening. And so for the last run, you've been being educated, correctly so might I add, in an abundant economy. And so your perspective and mindset of how you would evaluate jobs, opportunities, approach would come from a perspective of that mindset. Well, the script got flipped. And so we're here to help you today walk through that. So we thought the best way to do that was to kind of volley through some questions. And so the first one, I'm gonna be controlling the steering wheel, but you're gonna see Jacob and Kim kind of toggle back and forth, and we're gonna create a dialogue so it doesn't sound like me just screaming at you.
Yeah, so just our first question as we were kind of talking through, what do we really want to address today, which was, let's just start off with, like I said, let's just address the elephant in the room. Things have changed. And so how has COVID-19 in our current environment affected students' prospects? And really, what strategies should they be using? Where should they be focusing their energy now in terms of they still want to get internships, they still want to get full-time jobs when they graduate. That's why people come to college. And so where should they be focusing their energy at this point?
Yeah, I think it's good to take, I always believe in perspective and having a litmus test of what's honestly going on in the moment in order to react properly and not have the wrong perspective of how you're reacting. Here's what we noticed in the marketplace. When everything shut down, I always like to use Ohio because we're all in Ohio. When everything kind of started shutting down that third week of March, we noticed a trend across North America, and true in Canada, but let's just speak about the US. Everyone froze for the first 7 days. Everybody. Like, and in all fairness, it might have been the appropriate response because we didn't know what to do. Multiple perspectives, things changing by the hour. We're glued to the Google and television, trying to get some guidance as to how we're supposed to react. And depending on where you fall on that spectrum, things were crazy. Well, that's true in the employment world. That first 7 days, my own company, and including my sister companies, as well as our clients. And we have over 500 companies that we have a relationship with. So we have some perspective there. But that first 7 days, everyone put their version of a hiring freeze in place. It just stopped everything. Now, some of them would have turned that into, let's freeze it through our summer and see what's going to happen. They reacted very quickly. Others, after about 7 days, kind of to kick in and say, okay, the world's not coming to an end. Let's kind of see what our process are. But the reality is that, like we'll get into this next question here in a second, but I put that up there to help with what I think is an important part to this. So for us, we reduced 2 internships because we just didn't know. We still had perspective that we wanted it, but good news was it was a Kent student and an Ohio State student, but hey, it is what it is. But we're big U of A folks, so like any chance we can, it's like hire homegrown here first. 70% of my executive team has graduated from Akron, just so everyone's clear. Like, we support where we live, and that doesn't mean we won't hire the best candidate if they come out of another university. It's just if all things equal, we try to live in our backyard. So that's just our motto. It's take what you want from that. It doesn't really matter. But what we did, Kim, is we did stop stuff. And I think that's a true reflection of what other corporate opportunities. I was reading a stat in NBC News that 85% of corporate activities froze or suspended their summer activities during the week of March, that week we're talking about. Now, what's interesting is what's happened since then. You would have thought we would have rolled out a real strong summer. Because people are not sure what to do, we've had a very slow, an almost prehistorically slow rebound in this second quarter. And so I want everyone to, think about the mentality shift. You need to flip the script. You need to change your energy focus from an abundant economy to a corrected economy. I actually believe you have strong opportunities because of what you represent in the marketplace as a new employee. But you need to understand that we are now in over opportunity as an employer. So I'm inundated with too many choices. Back in March, I was competing with a fellow company as to whether or not you wanted to choose between me or them. Now the script has been flipped. So what you might have had in Vibe and Mojo and I'm not feeling it, let me look at my options. Now you might not actually have anything more than an option. And I might be the one going, yeah, let me see what my choices are. It completely got changed. If you don't accept that as today's reality, I actually think you've got the wrong energy going into this.
Hey, can I add something just really quick on that?
Yeah.
So just a thought, we have another corporate partner of ours, Incept. I know you know Sam and Darren pretty well, Vinny. Those guys are great, and they are a contact center company. And one of the things that we saw from them is they have a number of at-home agents. So people that are working from home, fielding phone calls, doing that type of business. And about 3 weeks ago, they would hire any student that applied.
Yeah.
That's still the same. And so what that does, and going back to what you're saying, is that, you know, coming out of school or being in school, that type of job is not something that you would think of. Like, that's why I'm going to college. I'm going to college to not have to have one of those types of jobs. But to your point, you know, that's the shift that you need to have in your mentality of, you know, right now it's an opportunity, and it's a great company. They are a fantastic company. That maybe that shift is not necessarily the, you know, where I live or, you know, the specific industry. It's like just the mentality of the actual, like, what I'm going to actually be doing could change. And they are hiring, matter of fact, they would hire any student that would apply. But the challenge on the student side is that willing to accept that this is something that is a good thing for now, that it's a building block for something better in the future, but I'm okay to do it now. It's okay to do it now. It turns into a long-term opportunity.
If you look at some of the Bureau of Labor statistics and some of the think tank energy that's produced around this subject, there's a stat out there that you're 74% more likely to get a job if you have a job.
Wow.
Now, that didn't matter a couple months ago because I would take a fly because I needed somebody. I would dispense with, you know, looking at whether I'm competitively trying to lure you away from another employment opportunity or take someone who's fresh off the bench. Well, why am I saying that? Because you may, even though you have this wonderful, amazing degree in one category, you know, do you know that over 70% of people actually sit in a career after a few years that may be different than what they have a degree in? It's a big number. And so I want to give you those stats. I'm a stats freak. But one of the reasons I'm saying that to you is we'll talk some more about this as we move along. But having a job and a perspective of the marketplace is highly different, even if you took something way less than what you would have envisioned taking in February or March.
Yeah, and I think that just speaks to the mentality shift a little bit. And I did appreciate, like, I appreciate, Vinnie, it's clear that you're an optimist or, you know, positive outlook, because even when you talk about the economy, it's like an abundant economy to a corrected economy. It's like not a down economy, it's a corrected economy. And so I think the students can probably, you know, take a piece of that as their, you know, oh, this job isn't what I thought it was going to be, or this internship, you know, it's an opportunity to do something that you maybe didn't think you were going to do before. And you just really never know where that's going to take you. You know, and maybe it shows you what you don't want to do, which is just as important. But I think that mentality shift of, you know, let me just keep my options open. Let me just see what's out there. You know, maybe let me take this opportunity they might not have taken before because I don't know what's going to come of it. So I think that's kind of where that mentality shift comes in.
I took an internship. So just to give you a quick story on this, everybody, I accepted a position out of law school with a law firm in Pittsburgh. I was thankful to do pretty well in law school. So I was in that percentage of people where we would get jobs first. So I accepted an offer very early in my third year in law school. The spring of my third year, that law firm dissolved. They all broke up. So there I sat as somebody near the top of my class without a job. And I was like, what? And then everyone backfilled and had positions. And then the .com thing starts to happen. And I'm like, holy cow. I actually took a position with a financial services company that I never wanted, never thought about. I didn't like the stock market. I didn't like anything about it. I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. Looking back, I couldn't have been any more thankful. I'm so blessed that that happened because it changed my perspective and it actually gave me an opportunity to look at the marketplace from an entirely different perspective than I would have looked at it from inside that law firm in Pittsburgh. You don't know. Like, I just always do my best to not get stuck in a small story. If the story surrounds why did this happen to me, then the story's small. If I can get my mind shift and energy on, all right, what am I going to do with this? I can get the story much bigger and have a much bigger perspective. I've lived it. I know. And so I want to really give you, like, that don't get trapped in a story that quite honestly may not even be true. It just might be an opportunity to lead to something much greater. So what's happening now? I think that's you.
So I think we talked a little bit about this. Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about this just in the conversation, but some common trends, some things that you're seeing with your companies, these things that I think students should need to know about when it comes to actually the hiring process. What are you seeing at your company and some of the clients that you have in this area?
You know, the reality is I'm seeing three things. One is this in corrections. This is what happened in 08, in 2000. The marketplace reacts first and foremost to technical skill. Now, what gets frustrating about that is how do you get a job without experience, but they want someone with experience in order to get the job? Well, in a corrected start to a market, that's the overcorrection. So people are going to look for someone with experience where there's been a correction to the wage scale. It's just the reality of how the market first reacts. So now you're competing with people who've been removed out of a job. But here's what's really interesting from an employer's perspective. There's also something that goes on in the employer's head that says, wait a minute, if that company didn't keep that person, am I better off taking culturally someone in who brings two things to the table that maybe that other person doesn't bring to the table? Now I'm going to give you your biggest weapons. This is the best secret I'm going to give you right now. You bring two things to the table, time and energy, and lead with both of those. You may lack wisdom, you may lack experience, you may lack some of the things that come along developmentally with that. But if you bring to the table the two best assets you have, that will substantially allow you to compete with this idea of someone who's been removed or furloughed. It will level the playing deck because someone like me will have immediately seen that you get it. And so training for technical skill is a much faster function than the corporate fit. And so what I'm seeing happening in our place is there is some hiring as usual. I just have choices. Before I would have hopefully the intern or knew just coming back and saying yes and didn't take someone else's job. I now get to look at four of them and go, let's have them back in for a second interview. Before I might be like, don't let them leave the parking lot until we get them in the job. I have the opportunity to take a deep breath and look more. That's the biggest thing I'm seeing in trends, Jacob. So there's a big thing that comes out of this. What's your advantage with that?
So this is the thing that I'm glad we have you on the phone for this next question, because I know that Fully Accountable is a big culture company. You're really into the culture and making sure that there's a culture fit. I know you have a specific hiring process that does that. So maybe you can, definitely that's one of the things I'm happy that you're able to be on the call and talk about that, but talk a little bit about that process and especially, the key qualities that you're looking for. How do those fit in with the culture you have built at Fully Accountable?
So I think I told you all earlier, and if anyone who jumped on a little late, I have a household full of teenagers. Okay, I get it, and I also spend a chunk of my time mentoring young men, specifically freshmen and sophomores in college. So my faith is extremely important to me, and I believe in the idea of paying it forward and doing these things and mentoring. So I'm around college thinking all the time. Now, why did I say that to you? Because back in February, I had one of my lovely daughter's friends at the house for dinner, and we're chatting, and she was talking about job opportunities. She just graduated, or is right now, or whatever the graduate. I don't know what the details on some of that are, but she just graduated from our fine institution, and she had multiple opportunities. So we were talking oh, great, apply for those. Fast forward to that week in March where everything started to shut down. She happened to be over for dinner. Social distancing alert. Please try not to judge me too much. But right around that time, got it. And so we're hanging out, and she's like, I'm not sure if I'm feeling it. I don't know if I got the vibe for that job. Maybe I'm going to look at some of my other options. And I said, whoa. Timeout alert. The party's changed. The script has been flipped. What do you mean you're going to like see where the vibe is and what you fit in with? The party's changed. You no longer look at this with a perspective of, let me like see where my passion lies and where my vibe is, because I got options. Your options are gone. And she looked at me like I was a Martian. And she's like, what? I said, you need to go back and double click on that opportunity under the perspective of take it. If there's not a direct alert, like this is going to suck the life out of your soul, then why don't you take it? And from that perspective, look at your opportunities. Fast forward to like about a week ago, she was over, social distancing alert, and we were hanging out. And she's like, yo, Mr. Fisher, I'm like, let's go with Vinnie. Otherwise, it sounds too old. She's like, hey, guess what? I took that job, and holy cow, all the other ones disappeared within that time. And I wouldn't have another opportunity. And I'm so excited to be looking at it. This whole vibe, passion, look at my choices, take a year off, backpack in the Himalayas, all that is gone because I don't have those kind of perspective opportunities. And I saw a different person in front of me. I saw someone that embraced the script flipping, and she said, wait a minute. I'm just going to go do some of the hard work and gain a new perspective. So to me, the best qualities that we're seeing in this environment are some of the ones that were being endorsed in the last correction. Perspective, knowing where you sit in the marketplace, bringing time and energy, being persistent, not sitting back and weighing your options, creating your options. Being this mentality that we've had for the last 10 or 20, 12 years is you send out one email or you send out one little snap and you wait to hear back from people. That's gone. You've got to chase now. You've got to be on the offensive activity. I get it. That wasn't what happened 3 months ago, but that is what's happening now. And if you're not chasing us, we aren't paying attention to you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I'm going to steal from a colleague, Kevin Smith, who's on this call. He's the director for our Institute for Leadership Advancement. Kevin, I hope you don't mind me stealing from you. But I'm citing you here, which is just saying yes. There's a lot of things that can come from just saying yes to things, right? I mean, obviously, not everything. Like there are times to say no, and learning how to say no is a skill. But I think starting with coming from a place of yes and saying yes to things, I think that's kind of where we are at this point. And you can
Gen Z millennial marketplace. I love where you're at with that, Kim. I think this marketplace of where we're at in age group, and I get it. You could be later career and be in the Gen X crowd like me, and that's fine. Age is really a youthful thought process. But regardless of that, this we've been, and I don't think wrong. We've been correctly encouraging you during an abundant economy. That's changed. And so you need to change with it. So vibe, it's got to be my passion. When I came out of school, I remember my grandpa, like early on in like high school years and before he had passed, he's like, hey man, you just want to get a job and show someone you're a hard worker. That mentality was what was around when we first came out of school. It was like, get a job and then figure it out later. Well, that's been gone for a while. And that's going to come back. And for some people, it never left. But for most people, that language kind of was gone. And you'll hear jokes where people say, oh, that's the way the old people talk. And that is what's going to and is happening now. You aren't a lesser person because you aren't getting your ideal moonshot job right out of school.
So that's a good, we actually have, if you don't mind, Vinnie, there was a good question from Ari that's related to this actually in the chat. And she, you had said, hey, get a job, show them you're hardworking. And she's asking, how in interviews can students show that they're going to give their time and put their energy in? How can they show to employers that, they're committed to this?
If you want, Kim, and I can send these to your office and you can decide, but I'm a best-selling author. I wrote a book called The CEO's Mindset. And even though the first chapter that speaks to business owners, and that's why I named the book after the mindset, the second chapter is about team, culture, and hiring. And to me, the perspective of how we hire is right in here. And if you reverse it from the perspective of coming into a job, so I'll be happy to pass those on. And any of our students that want them, they just have to go and raise their hand to you and they can have them. And we'll be happy to send them out for you and do all the work. But let me answer that question. when I'm sitting in an interview right now, and by the way, this was still my interview style, even during an abundant economy. I wanted somebody who understood where they were. I believe that youthful people, fresh out of school, I have a culture that might be different than most people. I believe that everyone at every level can bring input, energy, feedback, opportunity into an organization. But I look for humility. Now, everyone's got this a little bit wrong. Everyone thinks humility is thinking less of yourself. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. So what I want to see in an interview is somebody who gets that time and energy part, where they're like in their thing saying, hey, listen, I recognize that I don't have the experience you're looking for, but here's what I got. I don't have a lot of the other entrapments you old people have. I'm going to help most people in your office. What else do I have? I'm going to bring a new energy that you might not have in this position. I'm going to come here and show you what it's looked like to put dedication into it. And when I see a candidate who talks like that to us, I am so like employment attracted to that. Like I'm like, holy cow. I'm like leaning into that because that's the only thing you bring to the table. This idea that you think that because you have a fill in the blank degree that you have some advantage. All you did was learn how to professionally think. I got it. I'm not trying to be a booger. I believe in it. Always be learning. But take that from a position of humility that because you have that, you are going to bring time and energy into that job. And you're going to like, right now, what my biggest move I would say to people that I did when I was tenacious and young and going after it, I would actually go into places that I wanted to work. And I'm saying, I'm willing to come here and work for free because I believe I'm going to be one of the best assets this company is going to have. Now, usually that employer will be like, well, we're not going to, but we're bringing in entry level. I did that 3 or 4 times in my early career. I just did. I wanted something. I walked in and was like, I see myself being one of your best people here. Now, I recognize that I have a nature of my personality that I'm going to naturally run to the front of the room. But that's true. There are very rarely people who want to be number ones in the company. There are more number 2s and 3s than there are number 1s. And I'll tell you, my COOs and my executive team and my management team, these are all people who are dedicated to be on someone else's team, but have such a bigger perspective. Everyone in my company that has, most people, let's say, have this same infectious attitude towards time and energy, including me. And so back to your colleague, Kim, my answer is that you should come with that perspective. And I promise you, you will just be a light on the hill standing out against all of the other candidates. It's just how it goes.
Great. That's really great. Michelle, we'll get to your question too. There's a question about negotiating. Can they negotiate salary and things in the current environment? Michelle, in one of our future questions in the studio, and we'll ask that, make sure we get to that. So Vinnie, in terms of, I guess we've kind of been dancing around this, but not necessarily using this term of resiliency. And so let's just talk directly about why is it really important for students to be resilient? What does that even mean? Why is it important when they're searching for jobs?
So there's something that's happened in this digital era, right? So you have been raised, for the younger people on this call, you've been raised in an environment where you only know kind of an immediate digital relationship through texting and snapping and tiki-talking and all the great fun things going on right now. And so this immediate response thing has trained a whole set of you to believe that once you send something out, you wait for someone to respond to you. You've been trained in that way. I will tell you, you are going to have to work through that habit. And I would argue that in job searching, it would fall in the category of a bad habit because I want someone who's chasing us. I am not going to be chasing you, especially in a corrected market. I've got choices now. So if you think that you dive in a resume and you're waiting to hear from us and you don't go and chase the things you want, I'm going to let you know that you're going to get stuck in kind of old thinking. And you're going to kind of be passed by your peers who are going to adopt a resiliency to go get the job. Now, here's some of the things that are going to come out as a result of that. You may be seeing pay corrections. You might be seeing your first job being lower than you thought you were first going to get paid. You might be seeing that you're taking a job opportunity that might otherwise not have been your first choice come back in February. You may actually have been someone who had a job that got removed, and now all of a sudden you're looking from another perspective. Please, if you do nothing else, you need to be the one on the hunt. We used to be on the hunt weeks ago. Let's just call it. There's this thing that talks about A, B, and C players, and I feel that way. I feel about the essential and non-essential categories. I think we could be very offensive to our fellow colleagues with some categories. And so regardless of all that drama, the marketplace reacts through some of those labels. And you want the label for you to be resilient. And you need to have people around you, like Kim and her team, encouraging you to actually be proactive. And you need to accept that and not sit back and wait for it to come to you. That's what's substantially changed, Kim, is the resilience is being proactive. And what used to happen, and when I was looking for jobs, and it's like I'm talking dinosaur era, but we used to do things like follow up and have a follow-up phone call and write a thank you letter and do all these formalities that, because of an abundant economy, the employer would dispense with some of those formalities because we were in a hurry. That doesn't mean those formalities went away. It just means they got kind of parked to the side for a period of time. Well, those things are going to earth back up very quickly. And part of being resilient is doing those best practices so that you can stand out from the crowd.
Hey, really quick, Kim, on that, I just have a thought as well. I put out to a number of companies, employers, just some thoughts about, how to stay positive. And this is the early weeks of COVID-19 and how that was really impacting, internships. As I do my role, it's helping students find those. And one of the things that I kept kind of getting back was employers telling students, just keep applying. Like, don't stop. Like, don't stop doing anything. Don't stop. Just keep going, because there are going to be people that have stopped, right? So the tendency would be, well, if no one's hiring, I'm just going to wait it out. Well, that's not the, that's not the process. But the other thing too is as I've been helping students this summer that have lost their internship, it's kind of been a great story of the resilience, just to what Vinnie was talking about, that, hey, they lost it, but they're not giving up. They're looking for those other things. They're coming to me and say, Jacob, I lost my internship. I'm still persisting. I'm still trying to find those things, as opposed to the opposite would be, I'm giving up and I'm just having fun this summer, right? That's in this market, that's not the answer. It's just, you know what? The weather's going to be nice. I'm going to work on my tan and just let it all sort out in fall. Like that's.
Hey, by the way, Jacob, in all defense, if that's someone's play, then they just need to accept the internal friction that goes along with playing massively from behind when they kick it in the air.
Yep. It's a good point. If that's your strategy, stick to it, but it wouldn't be my strategy.
Don't re-engage in the marketplace and be kicking and screaming that like somehow it did it to you. You made that choice. Yeah. Live with the consequence of that decision. Now, I would say this as part of this resilience piece. Would you like to know an insider tip of the resumes we pass over? Or when your job right now is to get a job. Your job is to work at getting a job. And if you're treating this like automation, where you just go to Indeed and hit entry and you have this very vanilla approach to rapidly firing a bunch of things out and hoping magically something sticks, before you had it wrong, and now you definitely have it wrong, because we pass over those. If your job is to get a job, we want a critical thinker who's actually trying to get a job. Means you go and spend your time putting the person's name, who you're titling it to, attaching some of the documents, adding a little bit of element to the submission. If you make it vanilla, expect vanilla in return.
Great. Thanks, Vinnie.
That's great. So this is a good, offers are going to be coming, right? So hopefully. And so how should students handle the offers they accept? And Vishali, this is really great to your question. There was a question from one of our attendees, which is, in terms of salary and benefits in the present situation, how should they, should they negotiate salary? And how can they do that? So when offers come in, do they take the right one? Do they wait? Do they negotiate? Do they, what would you recommend, Vinnie, in terms of, when offers do come in, how they handle that?
I'm going to start with an insider's tip. We absolutely love when someone negotiates. Okay? That means they actually have an identity, they stand on their own feet, they see some internal value. It's an indicator that person is going to have that same type of approach inside of our organization. That same person also has to be okay with the counteroffer being no.
Right.
Like in an abundant, you had choices where you said, well, hey, I got these other choices. You may not have that leverage card. The response mechanism back might be, that's our best offer we can give you at this time. So I love negotiation. I think you need to make sure, in light of what you're looking for, that you understand. I believe in a concept called the zone of fairness. I think some employers are going to take advantage of removing marketplace salaries at the lower end of that zone of fairness. And I think during an abundant economy, I think that job seekers were taking advantage of the higher end of that zone of fairness. I think that's how free market adjusts itself. And I think that you're going to see lower offers. I think every correction has always spoken to that. There's a little bit of job salary correction that happens. If you're someone who has the blessing of multiple offers, evaluate what, right now, if I'm coming out in my career, I need to evaluate having a larger perspective of gaining in experience and wisdom and not going for my moonshot ideal job now. If one job pays less but gets me a ramp towards a career opportunity of where I'm heading, I might take less now. I always did take less at that point to get in where I really want to be versus more money and not in the spot I want to be. Interestingly, people who accept jobs for pay over opportunity are, I think it's 63% more likely to switch in a job faster. A Harvard Goldman Sachs study showed that people who accept a job for money, their first career moves are I forget what, I think it's like 63% more likely to switch within 18 months than the average 3-year switch of a job. So if you've got multiple offers, weigh them. And back to a fast answer, I love negotiation. Just understand that negotiations go both ways, and in offer and acceptance, the theory of where leverage sit has changed a little. Just know that going into it, and be okay that if you get an answer that doesn't look like the one you want, like, get over your offense and accept that that's how it goes.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, this is great. So, as we head into our last 4 minutes here, how can students use this as an opportunity to explore new options? What kind of parting words do you have for students and recent alums as they kind of embark in this new world?
I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to skip ahead because I gave a little like action steps thing. I said, what would I do to take away? Because I think that kind of fits together with this opportunity. And I'm going to start with my first one, which is the market conditions have changed. In order for you to be really effective and move into this idea that you're in charge of your career, not somebody else, your mindset's got to shift. You got to accept the realities that the external conditions require some internal change from you. And if you can see that your full-time job is to get a job, and if your side hustle is to get a tan, then okay, I guess that's just your side hustle. But like your full-time gig, it should be to find a way to get yourself into the marketplace. And that requires this mindset to say, okay, I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to look. The second thing I would say is, like, it's back to this persistence. How does resilience win the day? A great book that I always love to turn people onto is Angela Duckworth wrote a book called Grit. And in there, she talked about a theory. I think every book has a principle. And in there, she talked about this idea that most people get it wrong. They think they're going in to look for a job with passion. When in reality, it should start with the baseline of interest. Passions are developed. Usually, we start with this word incorrectly positioned. And how can you take an interest, water it, and develop it into something greater that might look like a passion? And when all of the studies were done, the person who would take interest and then use persistence to be resilient, that came out with this definition of grit. That person, at all end of the day, the one who outworked, and I don't mean more hours, I just put effort in usually outperformed the one who may have been more intellectually talented. So I would say, just because you might have friends of yours that intellectually might conquer a subject faster than you, that doesn't mean, by the way, you just learned my secret weapon. A lot of you are probably intellectually far superior to me, but I will tell you, I will outwork almost anyone in my realm. I literally, and I don't mean 20 hours a day, I just put the work in. And I know that I will give up less times than most people around me. And with my lack of intelligence, I'm not being self-deprecating, maybe a little, but not too much. I know that I'm just going to outwork the person next to me. When I look at 3 people around me, I'm like, well, I know it's going to be one thing. I'm either going to lose my arm in the process, or I'm going to be multiple steps ahead of all these people. That's just that part of that persistence and grit. In most cases, you will not have options. That has changed. The party has changed. You were showing up to a rock concert, and you're now at a country line dance. The thing has changed, okay? If you don't understand that, then you're bringing a wrong perspective into this. You are more likely to get a job with a job than you are waiting for the vibe, mojo, feeling it thing. That's gone. Now, by the way, you can go volunteer. There's so many ways to look at this thing. And this is my last point. Consider a new way. Maybe you might want to pivot. Maybe this is giving you the blessing and the opportunity to look differently at what you're going to do. Maybe you want to go work for a nonprofit and gain some perspective. Instead of this vibe where we took a year off to go backpack because there was efficiency and a little extra money rolling around, maybe you're going to take a different job with the idea of looking differently at the marketplace. Maybe you'll change. Maybe you're somebody, by the way, every correction has this, who might go run into graduate studies because you're not like ready to dive into the treachery of this current corrected market. Maybe you'll pivot and say, wow, I might advance my degree. Maybe you'll be that person. That's not defeated. That might mean that you're just looking to change what you bring to the marketplace. The studies are true. People with advanced degrees have a leg up on the ones who don't. It's just a fact. Back in 2002, there were 23% of the marketplace had advanced degrees. Today, it's 28%. There was a 5% increase over that time. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. And so, that might be your move. Your other move might be to say, hey, I'm thankful I've graduated, and maybe I might look at industries that don't require formal education, but I would bring some of those other things to the table. And with that, I'm at the end of it, Kim.
That's great. It was a, let's see, am I on mute? Okay. Thank you. This just really hits home. I think, we've all kind of been operating in our own worlds a little bit and, connecting in some ways. And I just think this was really such a great topic to start with as we kind of go through the summer and as students are kind of reevaluating things as we go into the fall semester. I just think you hit home on so many things, and let's just talk about the way things are right now and how we can look at them. And so appreciate your time. And for just always being such a great partner to the CBA and to the students. And we just really, really appreciate you.
I'm just floating through the chat here. By the way, I'm honored and privileged to be on your team, and I appreciate you entrusting this valuable time to allow me to be part of shepherding our alum and our students. I saw a question here about the one thing we didn't answer was kind of like the salary, but also with like, in an abundant economy, I had a lot of young people who come and say they want to negotiate vacation time and all these fringy benefits. I would say that's an area that's probably you're going to get what you get. I think the movement of negotiation you might have might come in the form of salary. I suspect the fringe benefit stuff is going to be you're going to get what you get. And so I'd be careful about the differentiation between a salary and the fringe benefit stuff. Right now, what might be tone deaf in a corrected economy is this idea of negotiating fringes. Just being real with you, like that might be something that got parked to the side. So be careful about overplaying your card on fringe stuff, because it's an indicator that like, ooh, does he care more about, or does she care more about 3 weeks vacation, or does she care about kind of diving in and being on the team?
Really great. I don't know about everyone else, but I wrote down a lot of really great like quotes and little nuggets of information. Thank you again so much. Thanks to the students for being here. I've posted the QR code here on the screen. Hopefully you can see it. For those of you who are wanting EDGE points, you should get them. EDGE is our professional development program. You can get points for attending these sessions, towards your EDGE honors when you graduate. One thing that can help you stand out. So just go ahead. What's that?
I want to throw out there this fall, I'm going to throw it out there that maybe like when we're allowed to actually be together, why don't we like do a kind of a follow-up series in the fall in our nice fancy new center and invite people in to really have a dialogue, another version of a fireside chat about what could we be doing to better look through the lens of this current market conditions. And so I'm delighted to raise my hand and be able to help with that. And I'm excited that in the fall, we're going to be able to do that probably in person.
Yes, definitely more to come. We've got more to come this summer. For those of you who attended today, hopefully you can come next week. We've got a session of Prep, Polished, and Ready on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Future sessions include like willingness to take a side road, reinventing yourself. So those are the ones that are coming up. But Prep, Polished, and Ready is next week. Hopefully you can join us. And then as Vinnie mentioned, so we're going to go into July as well. Then as Vinnie mentioned, we've got some great speakers this summer, and then actually, some that we didn't have space for. So look forward to us continuing this in the fall as well.
So that's every Wednesday, right? Every Wednesday at 1 o'clock?
Every Wednesday in June and July at 1 o'clock.
I want to say something, everyone, before you get off. Like, listen, this is a ridiculously amazing resource. Like, I saw the speaker lineup. It is stupid ridiculous. If you don't take advantage of this, I think you got to be you need to say to yourself, honestly, maybe I'm not dedicated putting in the effort to go get my job. If you can't find that hour to invest in that, I think that's an honest assessment indicator that, maybe you aren't putting all your effort into finding the job you need.
We always say it's never going to be easier than right now. We're planning these things for you. You just got to show up, and you don't even have to leave your house anymore. So,
so true.
So, we're recording this session, so thanks. Yeah, we're just asking you to show up and listen and participate. So, Jacob, I don't know if you have, for those of you who need to hop off, feel free. I don't know if there's anything else. Thank you for being here as well, and just for supporting this series and for participating today. Really appreciate you too.
No, it's my pleasure. This is great. The Taylor Institute is really focused on professional development as well, and so this fits in line, and be able to share our corporate partners with the entire college and heck, the community. There's people on the call that I know are not students or not former students, so we're able to share. We love sharing that resource, these little nuggets of these folks that can provide little nuggets of insight, and we're happy to be part of it. So
that's great. Well, we're getting some good thank yous to you, Vinnie, in the chat. So please know that we really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing your expertise with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.